Welcome to Papa Junk Shop. Got that spindle shaper the other day and got some pretty nice cutters with it, but I got quite a few router bits and I was thinking I might like to use those too. So I'm going to attempt to make a collet to hold 1/2-inch router bits. And I have an original spindle which has a taper on it, and it's held in with a drawbar up through here, and then there's another nut that goes on the top here, and then you put your cutters on here, and there's another thread here where you can put spacers and then tighten it down to pinch the cutters in between the nut and this cap up here. What I'm going to attempt to do is make this tapered part and then cut 3 slits in it equally spaced, and then have a 1/2-inch hole for the router bit to drop into, and this drawbar will pull down on it and close the fingers on the collet. That's the plan. Whether it's going to work or not, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to be able to put a nut on the top here. I haven't been able to come up with any, let's say, easy solution. And the way this thing turns, the drawbar will actually tighten up as you put pressure on it. And I was thinking, you know, you use collets and stuff in your lathe and in your milling machine, and the drawbar holds them in just fine. So hopefully it's going to work. And what I've done so far is I have the 1/2-inch spindle held in a chuck in my lathe tailstock, and then I've set up the cross feed, I guess this is, at the right angle to match the original taper. And I did it backwards from what you would think. You'd think I'd have the cone going the other way. But once I put this thing in the lathe, I'm going to have to do all the machining on it, or else it won't run true. And the router bit's going to go in this direction, and this hole is smaller, so I'll have to drill this hole. This is 5/16 drawbar. And then I'll have my 1/2-inch hole, and then my slits. But it all has to be machined at one point without removing it from the chuck. So in order to get that taper right, I set up a dial indicator and kept messing with it until I got it right. I'll run this across here and you can see. Now you know what? It's moving because this got a little bit of slack in that. Let me do that over on the tripod. Okay, let's try this again. Hopefully now you can see it a lot better. So I'm at the one end and I'm going to run this to the other end. So I think I got her pretty good. So I should be all set up, ready to machine, and just select my material and get her supported in there and start in. Okay, I picked out a piece of stock, just an old piece of shaft. I think it's 1 inch, and I marked this side of it's going to be for the taper, the length of the taper. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this portion down to the small part that's going to drop down in the spindle with the threads on it. And then I'll turn this around and put it in the chuck, because there's going to be some clearance here, so that won't be precision. And then I can go ahead and turn from that point out to get my taper. And then after we get that, I'll go ahead and drill for the 5/16 thread, and then I'll drill for the 1/2 inch hole for the router bit, and that'll stop before it gets to the bottom. So that's what the plan is. Hopefully it's gonna work out. We'll get this end faced off. Okay, I'm going to get some measurements and figure out exactly what sizes I'm going to need. I can never find the button on the camera to turn it off. Okay, because I got this angle set on this, I don't want to disturb anything here, or else I'll have to go through all that again. And there wasn't any way that my tool holders would work right so I could get a square shoulder here. So I had to make a special tool. I just cut one off at an angle so I can put it in here like so, and I can get a hold of it with two of the hold down screws. And I'll run that in. There, should be good to go. Let's give her a whirl. Gonna run up to that line approximately. Just gonna fade this first couple by hand. Chips are hot. Alright, I'll just keep turning that down until I get down to the desired size. Okay, I'm taking off about 30 thousandths on the dial, so I think that's 60 thousandths to pass. giving me a pretty nice finish. Probably about halfway to where I need to be. The last pass. Oops, sorry about that. Okay, 453 is what we wanted, and it's 454. Close enough. Not rocket science, it's just got to be close. So we'll turn around and get started on the next operation. Okay, got it turned around on the chuck. And one of the reasons I left that long is so I'd have a good grip on it. Hopefully it's going to make it solider and more accurate. That'll actually get cut off. It won't be anywhere near that long. Just enough for the threads for the drawbar. We'll get this diameter turned down to the size of the biggest part of the taper, which is 798. So around 800. So we'll get started on that. You know what? I'm going to support that. I'm going to drill a center hole in there and get a center in there. Help make that a little truer before I start in on that. Now my bolt for my angle setting is going to be in the way, so I'm going to have to extend this out a little bit. Now we got enough clearance. Alrighty, we'll take that down to about 800,000. Okay, this should be the last pass, and we can start on the taper. Okay, I got started on the taper. That tool, just repositioned it just a little bit. It was cutting so nice I thought I'd stick with it. 10 thousandths on the dial each time. Figured I'd just take light cuts, not take a chance on something going wrong. Get a little nicer finish in this direction. Well, you guys don't want to watch me do this till the end, so we'll get her finished up. Okay, got the taper pretty well done. Going to take a little whetstone and give it a little polish. Keep it nice and flat on there. Feels pretty good. Next we'll get our tap hole size drilled for the 5/16 thread for the drawbar. Okay, 17/64 is the drill size. Put a little cutting oil in her. Camera moves, wiggles, because it's sort of almost over top of the tailstock, so I might bump it. think before I go any deeper, I'm going to figure out the depth of this 1/2 inch hole for the router bit and drill that. That way it'll give me a little better clearance for this drill. Okay, I drilled it up a little bit at a time. This is one size smaller than 1/2 inch. I got a little mark on there how deep I want to go. I don't know if you guys will be able to see it or not. I'm not sure what I want to do, whether I want to ream that the last little bit or take a 1/2 inch end mill so that I get a flat bottom. So I'm going to think about that. Okay, as you can see, I decided to use the end mill. I got a carbide stubby 1/2 inch end mill. Thought that might be a good choice. Being it short, I ought to get a little more accuracy out of it. Here goes. Chatter out of it. I'm gonna get a flashlight, look in there and see if I'm all the way to the bottom. Can't really tell. Looks like I could go just a whisker more. I'll put a little cutting oil on it this time. Yep, I think I'm going to go with that. Now let me go grab a 1/2 inch cutter and see if it'll drop in there. Yeah, she fits. It's going in about that far. Let's see how much material I got left. So there's about 150 thousandths there. Probably better not go much deeper than that. Hopefully that's going to be enough to grip. I got to finish drilling that hole for the 5/16 tap, so we'll get that done next. Okay, we'll get some threads in there for the drawbar. I got my tap center and throw these back gears in to lock the chuck. And bring this up a little bit. And we'll just finish those threads out. And I think at that point we should be done with all the turning and stuff that we need to do, so I'll be able to take it out of the chuck. Next I'll be cutting some slits in there, which is, I've never used slitting saw before. I do have some. And I got a little rotary table that I think I can set it up in and do that, so we'll do that next. Okay, got her out of the lathe. I'll give her a whirl. No, I don't feel any slop in her. So I think maybe might be good to go. So next is figure out how to cut the slots. Okay, I got my little 4-inch rotary table mounted on the Bridgeport. Looks a little out of place on here, but it's gonna work fine for this project. And I cast this little tailstock a while ago for it, so I can use it like this. I've got a slitting saw, I guess it is, that or a real thin milling cutter mounted on an arbor, and it seems to be about the same slot as there is in a R8 Collet, so gonna go with that. And now we'll get this mounted in the machine. Then I got a center that'll go in here, and we'll just finger tight that. We'll bring the quill down and just eyeball that for center with that point. Okay, so we'll go there and we'll lock the quill, lock the table, the up and down part. Okay, well, you know what, I'm gonna have to move it again, so I'm gonna set this stop. And I also can use my DRO here too. Yeah, I got the stop set. We'll just do it that way. It's not like it's got to be precision. So now we got that set. Pull this back out. Put the center in the tailstock. And we'll put this part in the chuck. Get it mounted.
Call from 81459878000.
And I got a little sacrificial piece mounted in here to hold it in place. So I think we're pretty well set up. Just a matter of letting me double check a few things, and we'll cut some slots. Okay, I got the rotary table set for 0, and I did change the direction of this cutter. Thought maybe I should be going that way instead of, because of the way the taper is, and I'd be running the mill in reverse. And I've never done this before, so it's going to be new to me. I'm going to put a little A little cutting oil on there. Probably all wind up on my shirt, but and I'm not sure whether I should go just a little whisker at a time or just go for the whole shot. I'm going to try a little at a time first, see how this acts. Not really nice. Probably about 30 thousandths. Seems like it's working pretty good. No effort at all. Okay, I'm just going to cut into that sacrificial piece just a whisker. That way I know I'm all the way through. I'm going to set this dial to 0 so I can get back to the same spot on the other two slots. So I'll run this back. And turn the rotary table 120 degrees. There. I think I'm going to go for try cutting all in one shot here. Back into 0. There. Probably actually cutting the slot further down than I need to, but not going to hurt anything. we'll just do the same thing for the next slot. Okay, pulled the part out. This is what she looks like. And I'm thinking that I'm gonna have to put this back in the lathe and undercut a little bit of this lower part, because when you pull this in where this is it's solid and not going to give, it's not going to press on these fingers to hold it. So I'm going to undercut this just a whisker so that this upper part of the taper will actually pull down in. Now that won't be as precision because I've disturbed it now, but that won't matter. It's just going to be clearance. So that's going to be the next move. Okay, I got that little undercut done. Right here you can see the ridge. That gives me to the bottom of the hole, so I got some flexibility. I put some blue stuff on it, dropped it in there and spun it around in there a little bit. And it looks like it's, I don't see any spots that look really high. So I guess, and I cut this off so that the threads are showing now. So I think that's going to be about the right length. So I'm going to go stick it in the shaper and see if she'll actually pinch down. You know, it's finger tight and I can feel it's holding it some. Guess I gotta put the spindle back on here. Come on, lock in there. There we go. Ain't much room to work that spindle bolt. You can only move like a 12-point wrench, like one click at a time. So, okay, that's not ripping tight, but it should be snug enough. Oh yeah, there's no slop in it. The spindle lock back off. Let's give it a spin. Well, it looks true, eyeball wise. Let me get a dial indicator and put on there and I'll see how far off we are. Yeah, I got this little rinky dink dial indicator base. It should be good enough for this. See if I can get it close to 0. There. I'll give her a spin with a pulley down here. Well, you know what? Got pretty happy with it. It ain't too bad. Really. Not for a wood machine. So I think we're going to have a usable tool here, accessory. I'm still going to try to come up with a nut, just for double safety. I feel a lot better if I had something like this that would go down on there and drop down on the top of that. Give me a little more security. So, see what I can come up with for that. Okay, I played that last one back. And I realized that I should have zoomed in on this so you could actually see what's going on. See if I can get out closer to 0. Yeah, I'll give her a spin now. So, there, you can see it a little better. Well, I gotta take a little break from the shaper project. Tomorrow, our local engine club has a one-day fall festival, and they asked me if I can make some ice cream. So, thought I'd better go through the old ice cream maker, and I'm gonna set it up so that I can do 2 at a time. Been using just this center one to drive one. I took these chains off because there was no point in them turning, so I gotta put them chains back on, get things lubed up, and boy, that old salt that you use in the ice cream really takes its toll on things. So gotta tidy her up a little bit and oil her up, make sure she's gonna be good to go. So be a little bit before we get back on the shaper project. Okay, got her all lubed up, checked out, everything seems to be good. That's what she looks like when she's running. Of course, it'll speed it up a little bit, that's just idling. But you might like to see it. Well, I've been to 4 or 5 hardware stores, Tractor Supply, any place I can think of that might have a nut that would fit this, and didn't come up with anything. I had one that would partially screw on there, probably about halfway, because the threads weren't quite right. So I figured out what thread it was and set that nut up in the lathe and just redid the threads to the right thread, and I think I come up with a nut that's going to work. And she'll fit right on there. So what I'm going to do is, I found a nice fat washer with a 1/2 inch hole in it, and I'm going to weld that right on the top. So that'll be like that, and that'll push down on this top of this collet along with the drawbar pulling down, so should have something that's good and safe. So gonna work on getting that nut welded on there. Hey, a while back I made a turntable for welding. I think I've only ever used it once, and I got a little foot pedal down there to stop and start it. It's got a speed control forward and backwards. I got the nut and the washer set up on it. I'm gonna give her a shot, see what she comes out like. Yeah, looks like I better turn her up a tad. Well, there's weld on there. Running around here, looks like there's one spot that might need a little retouch. No, I don't know. I'll get that cleaned up. It might be okay. Let's see what she looks like when I get her cleaned up. Okay, here's what the finished product looked like. I stuck it in the lathe and took a little light face off there to get the bumpy welds off and run a file around there to round it off a little bit. That seems to, yeah, left-handed, I'm not very coordinated. And she's going to be A-OK. So I think other than making a dust chute for this thing, I think we're pretty well set. And I got a piece of elbow here. I'm going to make some kind of adapter that fits right on here to hook my dust collector up to it. So I was thinking about doing this all over again for a 1/4 inch, but I don't think so. I seen one that had a little sleeve bushing that went in the 1/2 inch one to reduce it down to 1/4. I guess if I got desperate, I could do that if I really needed to, but I don't think I'm going to be using any 1/4 inch bits on this. So if you like the video, give me a thumbs up and please subscribe. See you next time.